time, this individual of Bentham is also autonomous. He enjoys autonomy, he enjoys the sovereignty. So every individual is a sovereign individual in space. No one is under the control of any other activities. Everyone is free. Everyone is autonomous. Everyone is sovereign, supreme. Supreme to decide for himself. Supreme to undertake any activities on the basis of his own likes and dislikes. But activities must be for attainment of hedonism. So utilitarianism must be understood in the sense of hedonism, great spiritual happiness. And for its attainment, this atomistic individual who is autonomous at the same time, who is supreme to decide for himself what he is to do for attainment of this hedonism, great spiritual happiness, he always thinks once. So human needs are the utilitarian needs of this atomistic autonomous human beings. So Bentham traces the original state of human needs to this utilitarian needs of autonomous sovereign human beings. Atomistic sovereign autonomous human beings. And the human need is the utilitarian need of the individual. The hedonistic need of the individual. The need for attainment and acquisition of greatest amount of physical pleasure for himself. And as you know, that physical happiness and hedonism may be acquired by the individual through appropriation of these physical needs of life. This gives the individuals material comforts. So every individual runs after acquiring material comforts, after material comforts. According to Bentham's conceptualization, the individual is not at all concerned with his with his spiritual development. Salvation and heaven is not at all the aim of the individual. To be a good individual, in the religious sense of the term, is not at all the end of the individual's life. The individual always desires to get greatest physical, material comforts and happiness on this earth. Comforts that pertain to his physical body, and that can be obtained when he takes food, clothes, shelter, and water. So these necessities of life must be provided to the individual, so that the individual can fulfill his needs. And the needs are therefore the utilitarian needs or hedonistic needs of the individual. Because only through the appropriation of these physical needs, the greatest physical happiness for the individual may become possible. This is the reason why it traces the original state of human needs, especially the hedonistic, utilitarian needs of the individual. But since these hedonistic needs of the individual for food, clothes, shelter, and warmth cannot be satisfied through isolated, single, solitary action of individual, it is forced by the situational compulsions to seek the help of others, to work with others, to live with others. A society is formed, and simultaneously a state is formed. This is the genesis of the state. So what is the origin of state? The state originates in human needs, that is in the will of man. The source of state, the source of origin of state, the cause for the origin of state is the will of man. People desire, people will for it. Because unless a state is formed, unless a society is formed, unless a state is instituted, the physical needs for life, food, clothes, shelter, and warmth cannot be produced, appropriated, and enjoyed by the individuals for attainment of greatest physical happiness for human. This is the line of thinking of Bentham. The individual therefore judges for state. State is therefore a man-made institution. It is made by the human beings on this earth who live on a definite territory, form a society, and then institute a state. So society and state emerge simultaneously. As soon as the society is formed, there is felt the need for deciding the pattern of distribution of these common physical goods for food, clothes, society, and life. The pattern of distribution on these physical bits of life, which are produced through inter-individual cooperation, must be decided. So decision making is a must in society. And it is the emergence of the decision-making apparatus for deciding the pattern of distribution of the physical bits of life produced through inter-individual cooperation that the society is immediately converted into a political society. And a political society, the other name of political society is the state. So state awareness. And it is this genesis of the state, origin of state, that determines the nature of the state, the aim of the state, the very purpose for why the state has been instituted by the people, born out of the will of the people. The aim of the state is to provide conditions to the people of the state who have made it to realize greatest physical happiness for each of them. Everyone is autonomous. Everyone is sovereign. Everyone is supreme by himself. No one is related to any other individuals. So individual leads a single, solitary, isolated, selfish life. This is the nature of man. He is forced to live with others. That is because of the situational compulsions. State, they institute this, they make the state and institute the government for deciding the pattern of distribution of the material products. So that greatest physical happiness for each can become possible. So the ultimate aim of this state is again utilitarianism, to create conditions for enjoyment of greatest physical happiness for each of the members of the state. At the same time, this state, as it is a man institution made by the people, it is not a natural institution, it will not evolve from time to time on the basis of the will of nature. No. This state has come into existence because of will of people. And they will it because of fulfillment of their physical needs of life. For hedonism, they will it. So they make this state a common decision-making apparatus. Institute a government, an apparatus, a mechanism through which decisions concerning the pattern of distribution of these these material goods produced through inter-individual cooperation may be decided. And public policies will be made. So greatest physical happiness, making provisions to each individual to have greatest physical happiness, is the ultimate aim of state. Just as the ultimate aim of human life is utility or hedonism, similarly, the ultimate aim of state is hedonism, utility, making provisions for enjoyment of greatest physical happiness for each of the members of the state. And by nature, this state is a man-made institution. It is an artifice. It is an artificial institution. It has no life of its own. It is a mechanism. It is a machine. It works as a machine. Decides public policies. Decides laws. Decides the policies related to, or the policies which are essential for attainment of hedonism, greatest physical happiness. So the aim of public policy, the aim of law, the aim of state action is to provide to the people of the state the greatest physical happiness. So this is the nature of the state, the aim of the state as well as the nature of the state. But the state is a political society. Undertakes activities for realizing its aim. Aim is greatest physical happiness. This aim is subtly realized. The state seeks to undertake activities for realizing this ultimate aim of the state. That is greatest physical happiness for all. By way of instituting an organ known as the government. Because the state is composed of the mass of people, autonomous people. Therefore, the state has to do its work through an agent. It is an abstract entity, therefore. So the state must be personified in the structure of a government. And that's the reason why the government is instituted by the people as the agent of the state. This government works on behalf of the state. For realizing the very purpose for which the state has been made by them. And the purpose is the purpose is utilitarian. The purpose is attainment of greatest physical happiness. So a government is instituted. And Bentham says there is necessity for instituting the government because all the people of the state cannot work. The state is composed of a huge number of population. So all people cannot work in deciding policies, in deciding laws. And therefore there is felt the need of a government as the institution to work on behalf of the people, to work on behalf of the state. Keeping in view this conceptualization, Jeremy Bentham defines the state as an assemblage of people on a definite territory on this earth for the maintenance and promotion of greatest physical happiness of all through the enactment and implementation of law and public policies. This is his definition of the state. It's an assemblage of people on a definite territory. People live together, stay together, work together on a definite territory. And why they live together? Why they are associated together on a definite territory? the purposes, but the purpose of a maintenance and promotion of greatest physical happiness of all. This is the only purpose for which the street is made. That is the ultimate end of state. That is the ultimate end for which all activities and actions of the state are to be addressed and undertaken. Maintenance and promotion of greatest physical happiness of all. And the state does it, seeks to realize this purpose through its identity. And the procedure is enactment of law. Including public policy. And implementation of law. This is the procedure through which the state seeks to realize or attain this very purpose of its existence, that is the maintenance and promotion of greatest physical happiness. The procedure is to make law, enactment of law, including public policies, policies for all, and to implement the public policy or the law concerned. And enactment of law and implementation of law or public policy, this task is entrusted to the executive. Government is to make. Government is to make public policies. And government is to implement the law that they, as well as the public policies which are being applied. So people of the state, they do not directly get involved in making of laws and public policies and implementing them. Because state is composed of a huge number of populations. All of them directly cannot participate in the decision-making process, in deciding law and public policies and implementing them. It's an impossibility. Therefore, the task of enactment of law and implementation of law is entrusted to the agent of the state, what is known as the government. So, government is to make law, government is to implement law. And the only purpose for making law is maintenance and promotion of greatest physical happiness. And the associated requirements deemed fit for performing this task. The ultimate purpose is maintenance and promotion of greatest physical happiness. That must be it. So law is to be made by the government. And laws made by the government are to be implemented. These two functions are to be performed. See the functional aspect of the government. What is the prime function of the government? To make law. Associated with the function of implementing the law or public policy. Because only when laws are made and laws are implemented, then only greatest happiness of all, physical happiness of all can be maintained and promoted. A situation of peace will be established, discipline will be established, order will be established. And utility of the individual, that is hedonism, can be realized. So the government is assigned two functions, two major functions. One is the legislative function. And the second one is the executive function. These are the functional aspects of the government. The legislative function is to make law and public policies, and the executive function is to implement the laws and public policies made by the level of the government. The purpose of law making and law implementation is maintenance and promotion of greatest physical happiness. But since laws cannot be made by the direct participation of the people in the decision-making process in this way, the structure of the government may be decided accordingly on the basis of the needs of the time. The problem is all individuals, all autonomous individuals who are members of the state cannot participate directly. It is an impossibility. They cannot sit together and participate in the decision-making process. Therefore, direct participation of the people in the decision-making process, which we find as envisioned in case of Rousseau, is rejected by Bentham. Rousseau conceptualized and required that all members of the state, all people of the state must participate directly, actively and equally in the decision-making process. And that is why Rousseau is considered to be the first theorist, the father of direct democracy or republicanism that we have already discussed. But Bentham is very pragmatic. He is not a visionary. He is a pragmatic thinker. And he realizes that it is an impossibility that all members of the state, all people of the state would participate directly in the decision-making process. Direct participation is ruled out therefore because of huge population of the state. That is the reason why Jeremy Bentham proposes for representative democracy. Benthamite state is a democracy. It is a republican democracy because it is composed of sovereign individuals who are supreme, autonomous individuals, atomistic individuals. Each individual is supreme. And while making the state, the sovereign people have not delegated their sovereignty, they have not relinquished their sovereignty to the government. They retain their sovereignty, supremacy. They decide from the government, but instituting the government. And trust the government, the legislative function and the executive function for the maintenance and promotion of greatest physical happiness of all. Bentham therefore is the opinion, because of the impossibility of the huge population to sit together and to participate directly, what best is possible is people, the sovereign people who are autonomous, who are supreme, who are sovereign, they must elect their representatives to constitute the government. So this theory of representative democracy, this theory of representative government was conceptualized and provided to mankind for the first time by Jeremy Bentham. This is the importance of this thing. The type of representative democracy that we practice today in almost all the states of this world is the contribution of Jeremy Bentham, intellectual contribution. This is one of the very reasons why he is acknowledged as the father of representative government and representative republicanism. The concept of present day, or the concept of modern republicanism, the concept of modern democratic state, owes its origin to the intellectual mind of Bentham. So Bentham is of the opinion that the sovereign people of the state are to elect their representatives must be annual elections to the parliament, to the legislative body, the legislature, which is entrusted with the task of making laws and public policies. The legislature, according to him, must be composed of people's representatives, elected annually. Every year there will be election. At present, we have election for 5 years, after 5 years, at the gap of 5 years. So people's representatives are to be elected annually on the basis of universal adult franchise, one man, one vote. The prescription of Jeremy Bentham that we practice today in all the democratic states of the present world. One man, one vote principle. The principle of universal adult franchise. Very significant contribution he has made. Who wrote from his concepts and practicing in our political life. Universal adult franchise. Annual election. These are the specific prescriptions of Bentham for electing the representatives of the people to constitute the legislature. So the government of the state, according to Bentham, which is entrusted in discharging these two major functions, legislative function and executive functions, must contain two distinct organs. One is the legislature, entrusted for discharging the function of performing the function of legislation, making of laws and public policies, and the second one is the executive. This organ is entrusted with the task of performing the function of executing or implementing the laws and public policies made by the legislature. So the legislature as the law-making body of the state, organ of the state, or organ of the government, it must be composed of the people's representatives and elected annually on the basis of the principle of universal adult franchise, and that too on secret ballot. Ballot is secret. Your voting is not to be disclosed. That is what we are practicing today, secret ballot. We have borrowed this concept of universal adult franchise from Bentham, one man, one vote principle. And this is the principle of political equality. Bentham is in favor of a political equality of all members of the state. Every member is sovereign, every member is supreme, every member is autonomous. Therefore, every member is free. He is not under the control of anyone. He is free to decide for himself. He is free to vote at the elections in electing his own representatives. So Bentham champions the value of political liberty as well as equality. These two values, the value of liberty and the value of equality, these are the foundation of a modern day democratic state. Democracy is essentially characterized by these two values, political values, values of liberty. Individuals must be guaranteed liberty. Because without liberty, free participation of the individual is not possible. At the same time, there must be political equality. My vote must be equal to your vote. There must not be any discrimination in casting vote at the elections, in electing the representatives. So these two significant values of democracy, the value of liberty and the value of equality, were borrowed from Bentham. It is structuring our democratic pattern of political existence in life today. So Jeremy Bentham happens to be the first political thinker of the world to enunciate the theory of representative democracy. Bentham's state is a democratic state. Bentham's government is a democratic government. Bentham's state is a Republican state. Bentham's government is a Republican government, but it is certainly not a direct democracy or a direct Republican state. Bentham's democracy is an indirect democracy, it is a Republican democracy, it is a representative democracy. People are supreme, people are sovereign, yes. But on the day of elections, they exercise their sovereignty completely. Every year when elections have to be conducted, for electing the members of the legislature, the parliament, all the people of the state, their sovereignty becomes active and dynamic. Normally, it is government. So, by electing the representatives, people do not relinquish their sovereignty. They merely authorize, delegate. There is delegation of power from the people to the government. But they do not relinquish, they do not give up. They retain their sovereignty. And their sovereignty or supremacy or so is exercised by them on the day of elections. They are electing their representatives. That is what we are doing today. Only on the day of elections, the people of India exercise their sovereignty in reality. They become dynamic. They go to the polling booths, cast their vote, decide who would be their representatives to the government. Ordinarily, for the rest 5 years or inter-election period, they remain dormant. Sovereignty is exercised by the government. All these practices we have borrowed from them. All these are practical principles and tools for making a democratic state dynamic. What can you do? So Jeremy Bentham is of the opinion that the legislative wing of the government, the parliament, is to be elect, is to consist of, or is to be composed of people's representatives elected annually on the basis of the principle of universal adult franchise and their membership. Voting must be kept secret because everyone is supreme. Therefore, the sovereignty of every individual must be protected. Therefore, there is need for secret ballot. So that every sovereign individual must not be subject to undue interference or pressure from outside. So to maintain the sovereignty of atomistic individuals, sovereign individuals, there is need for secret. There is need for universal franchise because there must be political equality among the individuals. At the same time, the individuals must be given freedom of participation. So the legislature is composed of people's representatives elected annually. There must be annual elections. It is not in favor of election after every 5 years or 4 years like that. In USA, practice is 4 years. In India, it is 5 years. Even in UK, it is 5 years. So, borrowed, UK practices and conventions. But Bentham is not in favor of a larger gap in between elections. He insisted every year elections must be conducted because then only people can remain sovereign in the true sense of the word. They can exercise their supremacy. They have to elect their own representatives. If they find that their representatives' own elections are not fitful to them, are not trustworthy, then reject their representatives in every year and elect new representatives to constitute the legislature. So sovereignty of the people would be more strengthened, more asserted if annual elections are to be conducted for electing representatives to constitute the legislature. So Bentham is concerned about individual sovereignty, people's sovereignty. And that is why he has designed a democratic government, especially a representative democracy. And he has prescribed for annual elections and state. So that this sovereignty of the individual, the supremacy may be protected. And the democracy would continue to be meaningful in its dynamic from time to time. So this is the structure of the legislature. The structure of the legislature is therefore a representative structure, people's representative. And is in favor of a single house, unicameral legislature. A representative unicameral legislature, one chamber, one house only, not two houses, is not in favor of two houses. At present, we find in UK there are two houses, House of Lords, House of Commons. In USA there are two houses, House of Representatives and House of Senate. In India there are two houses, Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. Bentham is not in favor of two houses. What again? To ascertain and ensure this sovereignty. He is in favor of single house because the single house would constitute people's representatives. The other house is not directly elected by the people. Therefore, he is not in favor of the upper house. That is his point. So the structure of legislature is unicameral, one house only, one chamber only. And it is composed of people's representatives elected directly, they are to be elected directly. It is not composed of their representatives through indirect election. No. What we find in case of Rajya Sabha, it is composed of members who are elected indirectly. Whereas Lok Sabha is composed of members who are elected directly by the people. So the structure of the legislature of this democratic government, representative democracy of the democratic government of Bentham, the structure of legislature is a unicameral legislature, representative unicameral legislature. And this legislature, which is composed of the people's representatives, will ventilate, express the will of the people. And what is the will of the people? Greatest physical happiness. That is why the state has been created. That is why the government has been instituted. That is why laws and public policies have to be made and implemented. So functionally speaking, the legislature is to devote itself to the function of, to discharge the function of enactment of laws and public policies. And this executive is to be instituted by this legislature. See here, the relationship between the executive and the legislature. The executive is therefore made by the legislature, a child of the legislature. That is what we find in case of parliamentary government. We have borrowed it from Bentham. The concept of parliamentary democracy, theory of parliamentary democracy. But there is intimate relationship between the legislature and the executive. The executive, the political executive is a child of the legislature. It is made by the legislature. The legislature is elected by the people. Directly. It is composed of the people's representatives elected directly by the people on the basis of universal franchise. But that legislature, the members of the legislature, taken together, they institute the or appoint the executive. Because whatever laws and public policies are made by the legislature are to be implemented by a few individuals in reality. So the executive wing is the child of the legislature. It is made by the legislature. Therefore, the executive is responsible to the legislature. And this legislature is responsible to the people through annual elections. See here, political accountability. For all its acts of omissions and commissions, for all its laws made and public policies and laws implemented, the government is responsible to the people. So Bentham's theory propagates the principle of political responsibility. He is in favor of the government. He is in favor of a government which is a responsible government, responsive to public opinion. All these are democratic features that we are practicing today. The concept of political responsibility. The concept of responsible and responsive government. I am using the two words. Responsible government. Plus responsive government. The government, including both the legislature and the executive, must behave as a responsible and a responsive agent of the state. It is responsible to the people for all its acts of omissions and commissions, for all its works, for all its laws and public policies made and implemented. At the same time, the government is responsive to what? To the people, to public opinion. So Jeremy Bentham fixes responsibility and responsiveness on the government. The government is not expected to be uncaring for public opinion, ignoring public opinion, ruling on the basis of its own whims and caprices. No, not allowed. It must respond to people's will, people's opinion. At the same time, for all its works done, it must be responsible to the people. People is the final judge because people retain their sovereignty. People have not relinquished sovereignty. People are sovereign. In the inter-election period, all the sovereignty is exercised by the government, is delegated to the government. But that doesn't mean that the government is sovereign. Sovereignty is retained in the people. So Jeremy Bentham perpetually forced the political thinker of the world to enunciate the principle of responsible and responsive learning. All these are democratic features that we are practicing. We have borrowed from Bentham and practicing today in structuring our political life. So Jeremy Bentham says that the government must devote itself to the discharge of the function of enactment of law and implementation of law. Laws must be made by the legislature, he says, but it cannot make laws on the basis of its own desires. No. Laws must be made to provide conditions to enable the people of the society or state to enjoy greatest physical happiness. The aim of lawmaking is not liberty of the people. The aim of lawmaking is utility, hedonism. Because man is hedonistic. State originates in hedonism. Government is instituted for hedonism. Therefore, even the Benthamite state and government is a democratic state and government. Yet the ultimate aim of political life is not liberty. Ultimately, it believes that people are autonomous, sovereign from the very beginning. In the pre-state condition, they are sovereign. Even before emergence of the state or formation of the state, people retain that they have their sovereignty, they enjoy sovereignty. So he is not concerned about people's freedom. Because he enunciates the concept of an autonomous individual, sovereign individual, atomistic individual. Therefore, Bentham is essentially concerned about individual's hedonism, which pertains to the very nature of man. So the laws have to be made by the legislature, implemented by the executive, these two organs, for maintenance and promotion of greatest physical happiness. And what is that law? Which is to be made by this government, specifically its superior way, the legislature. In between the relationship between the executive and the legislature is supreme. Executive is sovereign. Executive is responsible to the legislature. Legislature is to make law, because law making must precede law implementation. And that legislature is to make law. And what is the concept of law of Bentham? What is a law, he says? He defines law is the expression of will in the form of a command. This is the concept of law. Law is defined by Bentham as expression of will in the form of a command. So, basis of law is the will of the people. It is the expression of will. Law expresses the will of the people, desire of the people, aspirations of the people, expectations of the people, opinion of the people. It is the expression of will of people in the form of a command, in the form of an order, in the form of a sanction. So will is backed by sanction. Will is not to be violated. If it is violated, the violator will be punished. That is the meaning of the term command. So people have their opinion, their will, their desires, aspirations, expectations regarding what their ultimate desire is. Hedonism. Greatest physical happiness of each. So law, the basis of law must be the will of the people for hedonistic life and existence. For maintenance and promotion of greatest physical happiness of which laws must be made, public policies must be made. That is the only basis of law. And that will of the people cannot be violated because people are supreme and sovereign. They have elected the members of the legislature to make laws. So if anyone would violate the laws made in conformity with the people or a hedonistic life and existence, the violator would be punished. Violation is not tolerated because it is expression of the will. Therefore, laws are backed by sanctions, physical force. Whatever laws and public policies are made at the level of the government in accordance with the will of the people are backed by sanctions, backed by penal provisions. Breach of law is not allowed. Violation of law is not allowed. The laws made by the people must be obeyed by each and every member of the state. Then only a situation of peace and order can be established. Then only maintenance and promotion of greatest happiness of each can become possible. And so far as lawmaking is concerned, what is the procedure of making laws in accordance with people's hedonism? In accordance with the will of the people, characterized by their hedonistic life and existence. What is the procedure of lawmaking? Laws must be made in pursuance with the hedonistic calculus for insight. We have already discussed the parasitic calculus, which is in the mind of man, psychology of man, says Bentham. In calculating the amount of pain or pleasure of an activity, every individual takes the help of this hedonistic calculus present in his mind in calculating the amount of pain or pleasure before undertaking an activity. He calculates the amount of pain and pleasure prospectively. And only when he becomes convinced or he calculates that he will get excess amount of pleasure, then pain, he is encouraged to undertake the activity. If he calculates that he will get excess pain, then pleasure, he is dissuaded from it. That is what the principle of utility says, or hedonistic calculus says. Principle of utility to recalculate. It is that principle which approves or disapproves of any action whatsoever in accordance with the tendency that it seeks to augment or diminish the happiness of the doer in question. So when an individual undertakes an activity, if he feels convinced that the net consequence of his activity would be pleasurable for him, if he calculates that the net consequence of his activities would be painful, he is dissuaded. He doesn't take, he avoids it. Or he must avoid it. Otherwise, he will suffer. If either you are incapable of calculating it, or if you wrongly calculate it, and the net consequence would be excess pain, you are going to suffer. You must change your activities. This is what principle of utility says. And here, so far as the lawmaking business is concerned, what is the procedure of lawmaking? The hedonistic calculus must be taken into consideration as the referral point. And the hedonistic calculus, as I already discussed, is composed of 6 variables: intensity, duration, certainty, continuity or remoteness, fecundity, and period. These are the 6 variables of factors of which the hedonistic calculus is composed. And these 6 factors of the hedonistic calculus enable the individual to calculate the amount of pleasure or the amount of pain that is likely to obtain on performing an activity. But this is at the level of the individual, this is. This is applicable to every individual who is autonomous, who is sovereign, who calculates for himself whether he is to get excess pain or excess pleasure on performing an activity. But at the level of the state, when the state is concerned, when the collectivity is concerned, mass of people is concerned, when the laws are to be made by the legislature for the people of the society as a whole, for maintenance and promotion of greatest happiness of all, what is to be done? He says that an additional variable must be taken into consideration, and it is the variable of extent. Variable of extent, meaning there was the number of individuals who are affected. Therefore, the legislature, while making laws for maintenance and promotion of greatest happiness of the people, must take into consideration these 7 factors of the hedonistic calculus: intensity, duration, certainty, continuity or remoteness, fecundity, purity, at the same time extent. The number of people covered. Therefore, Bentham is the why this is. Therefore, Bentham says, an individual at his own level may calculate his greatest physical happiness. But society is composed of a number of people, a huge number of people. And my greatest physical happiness may not be your greatest physical happiness. We differ. So, greatest physical happiness of individual differ from individual to individual. What is physical happiness for me may be physical pain for you. So our physical happiness together in the collective situation, it is very difficult to find out the physical happiness of each of the individual. So what he says, a pragmatic principle he enunciates, and that is the greatest physical happiness of the greatest number. Greatest physical happiness is at the level of the individual, at the level of the people of the mass. That must be the application of the principle of greatest physical happiness of the greatest number. Greatest physical Since greatest physical happiness of all is an impossible proposition in reality, it cannot be calculated. At least what can be done is to find out, to ascertain the greatest physical happiness of the greatest number of people, meaning there are the majority of the people. So Jeremy Bentham enunciates the principles of majority in decision making. That is what we are practicing. The principle of majority, how to make decisions in democratic situations or institutions on the basis of the principle of majority. How do you make a decision here in organizing a picnic? On the basis of the principle of majority. Majority of individuals who decide, that is implemented. That is a democratic principle. All of you will not agree or cannot agree. There cannot be found complete unanimity of opinion or agreement on it issue. And that is why politics emerges. Origin of politics is conflict, that is difference of opinion. But the role of politics is conflict resolution. Resolving how on the basis of majorities. That is what Bentham says. Bentham's state is a democratic state. Bentham's government is a democratic government. And decisions, public decisions, in this democratic society, democratic state and government must be taken, he says, on the basis of the principle. That is the most practicable but pragmatic principle. So the legislature, while making laws, public policies, for promotion, for maintenance and promotion of greatest happiness of all, must be concerned with implementing this principle of greatest happiness of greatest number. Majority of people. For the greatest happiness of the majority of people, laws must be made. So the happiness of minorities here ignored. If you are not in the majority group, your opinion cannot be taken into consideration for law. That is what also to be found. If the principle of majority is applied, minority opinion must be ignored and neglected. Sacrifice. That is what is done in all democratic states. In reality. And we have borrowed this principle from it. So the laws are to be made in conformity with the principle of greatest happiness of the greatest number. This is the procedure. And the laws are to be made by the legislature in conformity with the principle, applying the principle of greatest physical happiness of the greatest number. Calculation must be made on the basis of the deciding factors consisting of the deciding variables. And what the laws are made, what the policies are made. For maintenance and promotion of greatest physical happiness of the greatest number of people. Those are to be implemented by the executive. So executive is the implementation organ, implementing organ, executing. Laws are to be made by the legislature, implemented by the executive. Again, for realizing the purpose of maintenance and promotion of greatest physical happiness. Both legislature and executive taken together as organs of the government are responsible to the people. Responsible. So Benthamite state, so far as its structure is concerned, it is a republican state. Its government is a representative democratic government. Sovereignty lies with the people, decides with the people. The values of political equality and liberty are championed and practiced. Therefore, Bentham gives are still border of a state which is a republican state, which is a republican democratic state. And present day democracy is modeled, is structured on the basis of these conceptualizations of that. And in that state, our development comes. The individual are allowed to enjoy rights and privileges. From an analysis of Benthamite concept of structure and functions of government, we come to an analysis of each concept on relationship between the state and the individual. What is the paternal relationship between the state and the individual in advance of theory of state? He has designed a model state, a state who is republican and democratic in structure and functions. But what is the paternal relationship between the state and individual in this particular properties theories? What is the status of the individual in the state? How the individual is related to the state and its government? Specifically, in regard to the individual liberty and rights. What is Benthamite concept of liberty? What type of liberty the individuals do enjoy in Bentham's state, democratic state? Bentham doesn't define a liberty as absence of restraint. Bentham even doesn't define liberty as the provision for congenial conditions in which the individual would enjoy great sovereignty. In Bentham's conceptualization, liberty is obedience to law. Bentham is of the opinion that the individual would enjoy liberty if he obeys the laws. Laws made by the legislature. The laws which are made for maintenance and promotion of greatest physical happiness of the greatest number of people. So the individual enjoys liberty provided he obeys the law, or as long as he obeys the law, he enjoys liberty. The moment he violates law, he ceases to enjoy liberty. So Bentham is not in favor of unrestricted freedom for the individual. The freedom of the individual must be exercised in accordance with the provisions made by the laws. Because the laws are made by people's representatives. People themselves submit the laws through their elected representatives. So they must obey the laws made by the legislature. Who has made law? People's representatives. And people's representatives are elected by the people themselves. So in obeying the laws, people obey themselves and they enjoy liberty. They enjoy their autonomy. Moreover, the basis of law is maintenance and promotion of greatest happiness, physical happiness. And that is what every individual desires. So every individual desires to get maximum physical happiness. Maximization of physical happiness is his objective. And when he gets maximum physical happiness, he becomes satisfied as an autonomous individual, because his objective of life, his very nature is satisfied, fulfilled. Therefore, in Bentham's conceptualization, liberty is to be understood in utilitarian sense of the term, in hedonistic sense of the term. The basis of law is hedonism. And liberty for the individuals consists in enjoying that hedonism, realizing that. The basis of liberty, therefore, resides here in laws. And this law provides that, therefore, Jeremy Bentham is not in favor of natural liberty of the individual. He says there is nothing but natural liberty of the individual. So the concept of natural liberty of the contractual thinkers, Prof and Rousseau, is rejected by Jeremy Bentham. He is in favor of the civil political liberty. The civil political liberty of the individual is given by the law. So the members of the state can enjoy their civil political liberty as long as they obey the law. And liberty can be enjoyed provided the individual exercise their rights. So these two concepts, liberty and rights, are interrelated. And the rights are provided by whom? By the state through its laws. So law provides liberty, law provides rights. Laws are made by people's representatives on behalf of the people, the sovereignty. And rights are conditions of life of the individual, conditions of life and living of the individual. And these conditions of life and living of the individual are made by the legislature through enactment of laws. So in Bentham's conceptualization, rights in the true sense of the term are the gifts of the state. These are made by the state through its agenda government, especially the legislation. These are enforced by the state in case of violation. Therefore, Jeremy Bentham is not in favor of the concept of natural rights. He rejects the theory of natural rights of the contractual thinkers such as Prof and Rousseau. He is not in favor of natural rights. He is in favor of the civil political rights granted by the state to the individuals through the laws enacted by the legislature. Because in case of violation of these rights, only the state can come to the rescue of the individual, can protect the individual rights and liberty. Therefore, all earlier concept of rights and liberty and laws are rejected by the Bentham. He rejects the concept of natural law. He rejects the concept of divine law. He is in favor of man-made laws, human laws. Laws made by human beings in the legislature. The legislature being composed of the people's representatives. So Jeremy Bentham champions the concept of human laws. He rejects natural law, he rejects divine law. Because in his concept, law is the expression of a will in the power of command. Law must be baked for sanctions for violation. In case of violation, punishment must be given. Natural law, if it is violated, the violator cannot be punished. Who is the authority there? There is no sanction behind. So Jeremy Bentham is not in favor of natural law. He is not in favor of divine law again. Because in case of divine law, these are the laws in accordance with the will of God. But no one is seeing God. No one knows God. No one knows what he says. There is no authority to punish in case of violation of divine law. Therefore, these are not laws in the true sense of the term. These are rhetorical nonsense, he says. Only valid laws are the laws made by men as members of the legislature. And thus both therefore express the will of the people in the form of law. In case of violation, the violator must be punished. Similarly, Jeremy Bentham is not in favor of natural liberty. He is not in favor of natural rights. Because rights in case of violation cannot be protected by nature. In case of violation, rights can only be protected by the state, because only state can protect the rights that it has through its laws. Therefore, Jeremy Bentham in Benthamite concept, the individual is in a state of spatial relationship. Status is a status of spatial relationship with the individual in terms of the concept of law, rights, and liberty. He enjoys the liberty on exercising the rights granted by the law and continues to enjoy the liberty so long as he obeys the law. The moment he violates the law, he ceases to enjoy it. So Jeremy Bentham requires that every member of the state must render obedience to the law of the state in its proper basis. The decisions of the state must be obeyed, he says. And that is the basis of political obligation. What is the basis of political obligation in Bentham's theory? Why does an individual obey the state and its government? What is the basis? Bentham says it is utility. It is utility. This state is made for hedonism. This state continues to exist for hedonism. Government makes law for hedonism, implements law for hedonism. Everything is hedonism. And the individual obeys the state and the government, its laws, its public policies, or hedonism. If you disobey, the consequence would be loss of his hedonism. He cannot maintain his physical happiness. He cannot get physical happiness if he will disobey the laws of the state. So the basis of a political obligation in Bentham's theory is utilitarian hedonism. Utility must be understood in hedonistic sense of the term. This is the relationship between the state and the law. So Bentham says that the individual has a duty for maintenance and promotion of greatest physical happiness for himself. He has a duty to obey the state. But at the same time he says, yes, the individual may also disobey the state and its government in exceptional situation. He can disobey the state and the government only when the state and the government is either incapable or unwilling. Using the two words, incapable, it is not able to, or it is unwilling to promote the greatest physical happiness. So when the greatest physical happiness of the people is not realized through the laws made by the government, implemented by the government, the individual can disobey the government. How? Through annual elections. The government can be dislodged from power through annual elections. A new government will be constituted. And that is the reason why it prescribes annual elections. Every year elections must be conducted. People must elect their representatives. Laws must be made. Public policies must be enacted and implemented. And if people would experience that the laws made by the government and implemented by the government doesn't subserve their greatest physical happiness, they have a duty to resolve it and institute a new government in place of the previous one. But normally they must obey the government, because the government makes laws which is of their own making, through their representatives. They have participated in the government. So whatever they have made, they must obey. And that is the basis of political administration. Therefore, in economic state, it is the principle of utility which reigns supreme. Utility as hedonism characterizes individual's nature exclusively. Utility as hedonism characterizes the origin of state, the nature of state, the structure of government, functions of government, and state individual relations. Everything is guided and influenced by this principle of utility or utilitarian utility. And that is why Bentham's state is popularly called as the model of the utilitarian state. With this, we conclude Bentham's thought. Tomorrow, she will come to undertake a critical estimation of it. Yes. So that is not in favor of the national rights. Rights person है बात बोले तीन बार rights क्या है? When in case of violation, protection is only those are the rights. So who can protect the rights in case of violation in the state of Israel or before the permission? There is no one. Therefore, there are not rights in the prisons. They are only your physical powers. Rights have their meaningful connotation only in case of state. Without state, rights have no meaning. Therefore, rights are the gifts of the state, conditions of life, as created, guaranteed, and enforced by the state. This is the definition. State of nature में सबसे नहीं होगा किसी स्टेट ऑफ नेचर कॉन्सेप्ट है पॉप्स प्रोपोर्शन ये स्टेट ऑफ नेचर में नहीं है आइदर सोसाइटी भितर जाउछे फ्री स्टेट कंडीशन जत्र स्टेट नहीं दिए किंतु स्टेट सोसाइटी एंड स्टेट साइमल्टेनियसली दिए एका साथ
Sir, upon mentioning this, rights of minorities groups totally ignorance, happiness of the majority stand for
greatest happiness of the greatest number majority लोगों का
sir, liberty of rights का था लाभ sir, minorities indirectly exploited injustice created. Definitely. Sir, judicial बनाने किसी law.
Judicial office नहीं है obviously judicial second executive legislature judiciary ये टाइम प्रोटेक्शन दवा इवन तो भीतर बोले एग्जीक्यूटिव में से पावर दे दी बात में डिसीजंस जूडिशियल डिसीजंस मैं बहुत थिंकर से क्या करता हूं एग्जीक्यूटिव का पावर बहुत डिसीजन जूडिशियल
means say they totally ignore the societal issues.
चलो लेट्स क्रिटिसिज्म अरे कहो so think of Bentham and find out the defects, the drawbacks, limitations, shortcomings, miscues.
Sir, happiness is subjective experience.
तुम्हारा happiness क्या होता है? तुम्हारा happiness का पता नहीं चलेगा. It is what simply isolated selfness. At the same time, this individual of Bentham is also autonomous. He enjoys autonomy, he enjoys sovereignty. So every individual is a sovereign individual in space. No one is under the control of any other activities. Everyone is free. Everyone is autonomous. Everyone is sovereign, supreme. Supreme to decide for himself.